Oh, hello, everyone. Welcome to Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern time, my time. And thank you to the UK people who are here, because at least it's not past their bedtimes unless you go to bed really, really early. So anyway, I'm so glad you're here. This is going to be a really interesting show. Whoa, hold on a second. Hold on a second. So hold on a second. So glad. All hell is breaking loose. Sorry. I love live YouTube. When things go wrong, you can hear them. I have my iPad open over there, and then I got myself talking. So that's the first disaster. Secondly, can you all hear me clearly and see me clearly before I go on? And can you hear the little air coming toward me? Thank you, Annie, because my air conditioning went down again today. Again. So can you hear me? And do you hear the noise going at me? And I also need it because for some reason I have a sudden fly infestation. And I was just setting up and I'm like, what's that on my head? And I'm like, it's a fly. Oh, great. Pink Lilacs High says yes, you can see and hear me. Can you hear the wind coming at me? Because if you can, I'm leaving that on because I'm sweating like a dog. So without noise. Okay, cool. Let's move on then. That's my speeches then. I'm so glad y'all here. I also want to tell you another thing about live is that, I went to bed at 7 o'clock this morning because I spent the whole night just thinking about this case, because it is one of the most confounding cases, and it was driving me also nuts. And I understand why it's unsolved 6 years later. And I was going back through everything in my head. So I was like, I've gotten a few hours sleep. And then I get up and I'm getting ready for the show, and I'm running around with my hair all over like this. And I can't find my brush to brush my hair back into my great hairstyle, which is just a ponytail. And then I looked for my 3 backup brushes. Couldn't find them either. They must be with the 3 backup glasses and the 30 backup socks. But I have a 900 square foot house. Where could they be? But and then you're like, it's live and everything is going wrong. So, but I am here, whatever condition I'm in here. But this is a really fascinating case. So, and it's going to be interesting to take you through it. And one difficulty I had was, how did I want to approach this case? And I figured it out finally. So I'm hoping this will help bring clarity to you in a different way than other people have dealt with the case before. Christine says you look awesome. Well, thank you, Christine. Somebody said the other day I look like a Cheshire cat, because see this hair? When coronavirus came, I said, oh, screw going to the hairdresser and spending $200 a month for color. I'll just let it grow out naturally. Well, this is natural. I'm like, okay, so is this my normal color? Because I thought it was a blonde my whole life, but I've been going to people for so long. I've been blonde for like 40 years. Maybe I never was. So I think I was actually more brunette. And then we got these weird colors, which I think are from the last time it was colored. And then I'm obviously really turning gray. So yes, I'm a Cheshire cat. So I'm going to wait it out like 6 months and see what the hell it looks like. And then maybe say, coronavirus is now maybe over. I'll do something, but it's kind of fun to see what happens. So anyway, let's get to before I start, I must do my due diligence here, because otherwise my channel won't survive. Y'all been great. I have been gaining subscribers. So please, if you're watching and haven't subscribed, please subscribe to the channel, like it, share it. That's what supports my channel. I have limited advertising due to the topic, which is murder and children going missing and stuff. So I have limited advertising as it is, but the more subscribers I have, the better advertising I also get. Also, right here, whoops, that's it. Patreon, right in the description below. You can click on Patreon and you can become a supporter. And if you're a supporter at the second level, you can come to my Hangouts, which I'm doing once a week. And you get to ask any questions you want about profiling and serial killers and crimes and anything you want. And I will answer them. And even if you can't make it, you can send me the questions. I'll answer them during the show. And it's a lot of fun. So please do support. That's another great way to support. And if you just want to do a one-time support, go down to the description box, click on the Amazon link. For $2.99, you get a book, a great mystery story that I wrote, and it also supports the channel. So anyway, that's that. So now let's get to the story, because that's why you're all here. And it is a really interesting story. So I'm going to start at the beginning of the story. And here's the biggest mystery of all about this case. DeOrr Kunz does not have a Wikipedia page. Every other crime has a Wikipedia page. Why doesn't he have a Wikipedia page? I think I'd like to know the answer to that mystery. I'm like, how does that even happen? So today I won't go to my Wikipedia page and read you about the case. I'm just going to start with my own notes, which I had to take because there was no Wikipedia page. Anyway, here we go. All right, so DeOrr Kunz Jr. was a little 2-year-old boy, and he went missing on July 10th, 2015. So it's been 6 years, and it's another anniversary, so that's why people are talking about the case again. And this is one of the most requested cases I got in recent times when I've said, what case would you like me to cover? People are like, what happened to that kid in the campground? And so I said I'd do it. And, I hadn't really looked into the case before all that much. It's just something that passed by me. And so I agreed to do it, and I put it up there. And then when I started researching it, I was like, wow, this is bizarre. So I want to mention, in the description box below, you'll see a number of links to different sites, the different sites that I looked at to get information from. So if you want to know more about the case, look, here comes one of the, if I do this a couple times, it's that stupid fly that's coming through. And I put out a big light behind my green screen, and I put out some honey, trying to get rid of the fly, but he's still here. So if you see me do this, that's why. So down in the description box, you'll see a number of different videos that I watched, which I thought were excellent. So you can go there and watch them. There was very little written information about this case. And usually I go for written information, especially police reports and such. Nothing. So I had to watch all the videos, and I spent hours watching them. And then I stayed up all night just ruminating. And here I am, half asleep. So, but they're down there in the description box. And I think you should click on them and you'll find them very interesting. So anyway, he went, so I'm going to start with the players, because I'm going to call them the players because they really are like a cast of characters, and people have lots of views about these characters that are behind me here. And one of the problems with this case is that since it is so bizarre, there have been a million theories that are just wacko theories, some reasonable theories, some really good questions people ask, but it's gone berserk on social media. So we've lost a lot of sensibility, and that's what I'm here for. That's what I do these shows for. So we have over here, this is Jessica Mitchell. She is the mother of the little 2-year-old boy. It is her third child. She has given up custody of 2 of the children to her ex, and people attack her a lot for this. I couldn't find out any information about why she did that, whether he was just stable and maybe she had some issues and she decided he could do a better job with basic full-time custody. Maybe she knew he would win in a court of law. Because sometimes it can be very tough. And so she does have visitations with him. She gets together with him, the other 2 children. But people bring this up a lot. But anyway, DeOrr was her third child with this guy here. And that's the father, Vernal Kunz. His name is also DeOrr. Vernal DeOrr Kunz. I'm going to use Vernal because otherwise it's really confusing. That's the boy's dad. These 2 are not married, although some people think they were. They were engaged, and they were together for like 5 years. So they had a good, strong relationship at the point that the child disappeared. So these 2 were the parents of DeOrr. Now over here, that's the great-grandfather of DeOrr Kunz, the little boy who went missing, and the grandfather of Jessica. So this is the great-grandfather. He wasn't in greatest of health. He was using oxygen. It's a little portable oxygen thing, and I will discuss that later because people don't understand that. And he died in 2019. So like 4 years after the boy disappeared, he died of cancer. So he wasn't in the greatest of health. This guy over here is Isaac. Let's see if I can pronounce his name right. Reinwand. This was Isaac is his friend, and there's a lot of issues about that too. Isaac went on the camping trip with him, so all these four were on this camping trip with little DeOrr. And so now I'm going to start at the beginning and discuss these four and going on the camping trip. And this is important because I want to get rid of something right away, really right away. There are many people who believe that little DeOrr Kunz was dead before they went on this camping trip. And that is not supported by anybody involved in this case. These four people say he was on the camping trip. The two sheriffs involved say he was on the camping trip. The two PIs, I'll get to those PIs later, say he was on the camping trip. There is no evidence that the little boy did not go to the campsite. And people like to come up with this because they're thinking, well, maybe the reason, and let me tell you the basic, let me tell you the basic story of where they're going. So just so you can, I can get this across. Okay. Okay. Wait, where am I? Okay. So they went on this camping trip. They left, and they left in two cars. The parents were these parents. Not the parents over here. The parents over here. I'm going to move. It's always hard on the green screen. I'm working on it. It's like doing the weather, but I've never done the weather. So the parents went in one car with their son, a truck. They took a truck, and these others. This was the grandfather had a truck, and I believe he had a camper too, and he took his friend Isaac with him. So there were two vehicles. They went about 2.5 hours from Idaho Falls, I believe it was, and they went down this very, very like 7 miles of a deserted road. It's only one way in and one way out of this campsite. It's in a beautiful area. It looks like that. Gorgeous. Oh, hold on a second. Windows update just came in and went, boing. Anyway, live television or live YouTube. It's great. Okay, so here's this beautiful area that they're going to. You can see it's lovely. That's where they're going to be at. And I'll show you a little picture of this. This is, thank you, Nancy. Nancy Grace, who I did her show for 15 years, but I did not do this show. Anyway, because I wasn't doing her show at this point. Anyway, this is, okay, so there's an entrance up here. That's where they came in, and then they go down here to the campground. Then if you go further, you see the reservoir and this creek. There's a creek that runs all the way up here. So basically that's it. It's also a dead end down here. So if you come in from here, you're going to come to a dead end. You have to go back out the same way you came on this long, like 7 mile road. And so there's one way in, one way out that road. And so that's where they were. They were at this campsite. And this is just a picture of the campsite without them in it. It's they've got tables and a place where you can, there's a fire pit over there, and you hang out in this beautiful little location. It's lovely. And let me show you a picture of Grandpa. Now, I don't know that this is taken from there. I don't think it is, but shows him with a camper. I think this is before he had the cannula for the oxygen and stuff. So this is a little earlier, but you see he's hanging out. He likes to camp. He likes to fish. He's got this camper. So anyway, that's, I believe, maybe the same camper. I don't know. But this is, and you see he's also got a little shovel there, which you bring along to help with, when you make a fire, you can, throw dirt over it. Okay, I'm not a big camper. I don't really know. But, this is the norm for him. So I want you to understand the just general setup of this particular place before we get into what happened. Now let's go back to the four characters. And now they're leaving home. And this is very important. I do not believe anything happened to DeOrr before he left home with his parents and with his grandpa and friend to go camping. As a matter of fact, nobody has any issues about the fact that they arrived at the campsite, that they set up camp. It was getting dark about that time. They were setting up camp and hanging out and then going to sleep. Nobody has an issue with that particular day. And a lot of people are coming up with issues, and it's really strange issues about it. Now, one of the concepts they have is that the parents killed off their kid and then decided they were going to drive out to this campground and pretend he went missing from there. Okay. If you're going to do that, don't take along Grandpa and don't take along some dude you don't even know. Now, this dude does not know the parents. He's a friend of the grandpa's. He's been a friend for like 5 years on and off. They go fishing and hanging out together, camping and stuff, mostly fishing. And a lot of people, here's one of the things I want to dispel during this show. It is the concept of you take something out of context and you go crazy over it and you say, well, see, that proves that these people, they were involved or they're, whatever. And you make too much of a little something. So one of the things people have made about is why grandpa, who is a great grandfather to the little boy, is hanging out with this younger man. Okay, now I want to put up this thing that he said later on. It made me laugh, actually, because there's just such a truth to this. Let's see if I can find it. Okay, I think it's this one. Oh, yeah, this is it. Yeah, he did work for me, and we went fishing. When you get so old and you're running around the hills, you got to have somebody there in case you keel over. Now, if you're young, you might not understand this, but if you're a little older, he's absolutely correct. So in other words, he's known him for quite a while, and he has had, and the great-grandfather has had health issues. Grandfather, his name is Robert Walton. He's had health issues. And so when he wants to go fishing, does he really want to go completely alone, or would he prefer just to go with somebody who, in case he does indeed keel over, the guy can call 911 or put him in the vehicle and drive him someplace, and get him to help. You don't necessarily want to be totally alone if you got some health issues. So they happen to be friends. And is it really impossible for an older person to have a younger friend? Excuse me, but I have people I know who are younger than me who I get along with, and they're not my age. And I've gone some places with those younger people too. Oh my God. No, there must be something suspicious in that. No, this guy might like to fish, and he knows this guy, and they just get along and have a fun time laughing and joking. Apparently grandpa over here kind of likes to provide some alcohol, maybe to this guy. Maybe he likes to drink. Who knows? I don't know. So they go fishing together. He provides some alcohol. They hang out. He gets some safety. He gets some safety. He gets a little liquor. Everybody's having a good time. Nothing suspicious in this. So when they decide to go on this camping trip and people say, oh, it's so last minute, I think it was suspicious. Well, maybe it wasn't as last minute as people say. Some people, there's some stories that it was actually planned a week before, but whatever. Camping is not that suspicious, people. Lots of people like to camp and fish. And if they're camping and fishing people, they might say, hey, let's just go up there. And they think it's a nice break. They don't mind driving a couple hours, hang out in beautiful surroundings, do a little fishing. Just because you're a city person and don't understand people who live in another area of the country doesn't mean it's suspicious. So they wanted to have a good time. And it worked out well because Jessica, by the way, was now taking care of her grandfather for like the last 6 months. I think what happened, and there's not good information on this, is that until the last 6 months, he was able to manage well enough on his own. And as his health was declining, the family could get money for her to watch him. And what a good deal. And there's nothing wrong with that. His granddaughter watches him. She brings her son with her. That way she doesn't have to get daycare, and they can hang out together, and she gets paid. He gets some help. I think that's perfectly lovely. Nothing wrong with that. And as far as him, then people say, oh my God, well, why would they take him camping if he's in such bad health? Okay, folks, he didn't die for 4 more years. He had an oxygen. It's called and I'm going to blow this because it's a special name for it. It's a small oxygen thing. And what it does is it doesn't actually bring oxygen with you. I think I had to look this up because I didn't understand this. Most of us are used to a big, huge oxygen thing that people drag along behind them. That actually provides real oxygen. But this little thing, what it does is it takes oxygen from the air and fixes it and gives you more pure oxygen. So you can therefore not have to replace it constantly. You can just make sure you just hook it up and charge it, and it'll take oxygen out of the air and give you extra oxygen. And therefore, it's a really cheap method and a portable method, giving you freedom. So for poor grandpa who's not that well, he can now carry this very small container with him, and he can go fishing. He can put it next to him in the car. He does drive. He drives his own vehicle. He can drive places because he's getting enough oxygen. And he can go about his business. He wasn't an invalid. He could walk, he could fish, he could drive. He was not an invalid. And this will be important later on in this whole thing where people are making up stuff that, oh my God, how could they leave him with this man who couldn't even function? No, that's just nonsense. Okay, so let's get it straight. All of these four got into two vehicles and left on a perfectly reasonable camping trip. Nothing nefarious about this. And to make it so is ridiculous. There's no evidence that little DeOrr was not with them. People call him baby DeOrr. I can't do it because he wasn't a baby. He's a toddler. But so I'm not going to call him baby DeOrr. I'll call him little DeOrr, but I won't call him baby DeOrr. And they took baby with, why would you take a 2-year-old camping? Really? Because who are you going to leave him with? You just took everybody with you who would watch him. Well, maybe her grandmother could watch him, but why not take your 2-year-old? I took my 2-year-old with me camping. I took my 4-year-olds, my 6-year-old. I went camping with my kids. That was fun. I wanted them to see nature. I wanted to have a good time. What's wrong with you people out there who think that you can't take your kids someplace camping? I mean, maybe you live, again, in the city or the suburbs. You don't like camping, but that's not the way people live. So nothing wrong. So let's get this straight right here and now. They all left. All were alive. They went to the campsite. Not an issue. All right. So now let's move on. They're at the campsite. What happens at the campsite? Things get confusing there. Okay. So everybody agrees, except for people on the internet, that they got to the campsite. They set up camp. They slept in different locations. This guy slept in a tent. He slept, I think, in the camper, and I think they slept in the, I don't know, back of whatever they slept in. Anyway, with the kid. Okay, everybody's okay. The morning comes, things get a little less clear, and it's hard to know why things are less clear during that day. Now, I will talk about the private investigators in a minute because they're another whole, I would say, head case. But, okay, they're another whole issue. But, okay, so this guy, they asked when he gets up. He says, somebody asked who got up first, and he's like, he does a very long interview with somebody, and it's really interesting, and you can find that also in the description below. You can click on it. Isaac does a long interview, and he says he got up and then he went back to bed. And I'm going to say, since he mentioned the alcohol here, he might have he'd been up maybe really late, like drinking alcohol. What we don't know is anybody's toxicology report. Did people drink, which they do a lot at campsites? Did people smoke weed at campsites? Highly possible. We're not hearing the truth on this. I don't know. I can't get the information on it. Maybe nobody even looked into that because they were looking for a missing child. Nobody did toxicology reports on the people that were here. So was he really got drunk the night before and slept in? He said he got up and then he went back to bed and didn't get up till like noon. I'm going to say maybe he drank. Nothing wrong with this. Again, nothing wrong with that. And then he gets up and they said, did you have breakfast? And he's like, I don't remember, but I realized maybe we had breakfast. And that's become suspicious because he can't remember. Well, a lot of times when you're camping, unless you have a really good routine where you get up and you make everybody, we're going to have breakfast at 10 o'clock and we're going to make bacon and eggs and some sausages. And we're going to, toast up some bread on the grill, and we're all going to have this great breakfast. Sometimes when you're camping, you just eat shit that's around you, and maybe somebody throws something on the fire. I don't know why he doesn't have a clear memory of that, but I don't have good information. Now, I want to point out, one of the problems of this case is I don't have the original police reports, the original police interviews. I wish I had them. A lot of times when I work a case, I will hear something from the outside. I'll see all this stuff. I'll go, I wonder if this happened. Then I get to the police agency. I go in, they hand me all the information. I start sitting down. I start looking. I start reading. I'm like, what the? This is totally different. Now that I can see the real interviews, the real interrogations, I have a totally different opinion. And this is the kind of thing that's frustrating when you do this, YouTube stuff. I can't get to the police investigation, and I don't know what their materials are. I might have a totally different opinion if I could see that stuff, but I can't. So I don't know what the people actually said about breakfast, lunch, whatever is going on. All I know is he says he really doesn't remember much of a breakfast. I don't hear anything else about a breakfast. He was slept in. And then he says he woke up and they were all hanging around. And then these two decided to go to the store. And so they went to the store. They came back. Then these two supposedly sat around a little bit, chit-chatted. And then they got the fishing equipment together. And then he supposedly showed these two where the good fishing was, because he'd been already doing that with Grandpa. Now let me show you just the basic. Let's see. I took this off of one of the shows. I wish I could remember which one. So anyway, they're at this site, and so this is kind of what you can see from where the site is. And then where is it? Oh, now I'm missing things. I hate it when I find things going missing. And so I'm going to look over here. Hold on a second. Oh, here we go. Okay, so supposedly, so here's the basic story. They go down to the stream. So Jessica, the mom, and Isaac they're in the front. Vernon's behind them, and little DeOrr is behind them. Okay, they're leaving and they go to look at the stream. And there at the stream isn't that far away. Jessica points out that you can see back through the trees up there to the campground and see the table. I find this a little confusing because she says it takes 10 minutes to walk. I think Vernal said something like it's 400 yards or something. And the times and the distance seem a little off to me. I can't figure that out exactly. But at any rate, they're down there. And at some point, supposedly, this is what happens. Grandpa's up here that way. Okay, he's up here. And there they go to the stream. And they're showing the footprints of Mom and Isaac. And then they're showing Vernal back here. And those little footprints are supposed to be the boy. And at some point, the boy supposedly turns around and goes toward Grandpa, and Vernal says, "Hey, you want to go hang out with Grandpa? Because Grandpa has some candy." And he says, "Yeah." And so he disappears off to Grandpa. And then a few minutes later, they come back out. Vernal says he saw some cute little, lots of tadpoles, and he thought his son would like that. So he went back up, and then Dad, he said to his wife's grandfather. So let's get this straight. His wife's grandfather, where's little DeOrr? And Grandpa's like, huh? And he said, where's little DeOrr? And Grandpa doesn't know. That's when the kid supposedly went missing. Nobody knows what happened to him. Now, I want to show you what Grandpa said. Let's see, what did Grandpa say? Okay. First he says this: "I don't know what happened to him for sure, or else I'd let you know." Then he says this: somebody asked him whether for sure that Vernal or Jessica said, "Can you watch little DeOrr?" He says, "I don't remember that, but I was watching him anyway, They took off. I don't really have a problem with this. We have a lot of people who don't seem to understand how parents and children and grandparents work. You're all together, you're hanging at a campsite. I mean, you go, you're with Gramps watching him. Gramps is not paying attention. And you think one thing's happening and another thing is happening. I don't see anything, again, nefarious about this. I've seen miscommunications between parents and parent, and parent and grandparent and parent and babysitter. Somebody doesn't hear something. Somebody thinks something is happening. But you're all together at the campsite, so you're not thinking that much about, that the kid's just going to go disappearing. You're just running down to the creek and coming back. And then, so I don't see anything huge and nefarious about this, but this is when he disappears. And then they look for him. They say they can't find him, so they start searching for him. And then the phone call is made to 911. I'm going to play this, and I'm going to play it again later when I discuss exactly what this.
Address of your emergency. I'm actually camping in Ledor, just outside of Ledor. My 2-year-old son, we can't find him.
Okay, so Jessica makes a phone call, and while she's on that phone call, her husband Vernal has gone up the road to get better signal. They say, "Oh, your husband's also on the other line." And so both of them have called into 911. And then from there on, search and rescue comes, and they start the big search. Okay, so now let's get to everybody's opinions on this and what the hell happened. All right. Okay. So, okay. By the way, we got to be careful about this stuff. Gina said, Grandpa had memory problems and could not actually confirm it. They asked him to mind the child. He does not remember minding him. He went into his camper and took a nap. We don't actually know all of this. This is a lot of conjecture and a lot of information from different places. However, could it have happened that he went to his camper and laid down? Yes. Could he not have heard that he was supposed to watch him? Yes. We don't know. But apparently, some miscommunication happened. And I'm going to get into the whole point of why this might or not might be important. Okay. And this is one of the things I point out. I just don't know they would leave an active toddler with an old grandpa. Yes, they would. Yes, they would. And this is the kind of thing which I think is, I would. My father was in his 80s and my mother was in her 80s. And he used to come over to the house and to fix things in his 80s. And somewhere about the end of his 80s, he started having some memory issues. And I noticed he had, and my mother had Alzheimer's. And then he definitely had, I think he had mini strokes and eventually had, memory issues. Then he had a stroke and died. My mother continued with Alzheimer's and then she died. So I've been through memory issues with elderly people and Alzheimer's. Just because somebody is older and needs some oxygen and has some health problems doesn't mean they're incapable of watching a 2-year-old who's in the same area they're in. Would parents leave them? Yes, they would. You don't have to agree. You can be one of those parents and say, I wouldn't leave my kid with them. Okay, fine. But it doesn't mean it's an unreasonable thing to do. They took little DeOrr with them when they went to town. They did not leave him for an hour with Grandpa and the strange dude they didn't know, Isaac. They took him with him, took the child with them and came back. And apparently when they came back, Isaac and the grandfather both saw him there and the whole thing went on. I'll discuss, again, more of that later. But there's nothing unreasonable about you're walking down to a creek and you're coming back. Grandpa can watch the kid. He wasn't immobile. He wasn't in a wheelchair and unable to follow a 2-year-old. Maybe he couldn't run real fast, but he can take his oxygen thing and walk. He walked down to the creek to fish. He can walk. There's no reason why he can't say, hey, little DeOrr, come on over here. Hey, DeOrr, don't go over there. There's no reason he can't do this. So I think we're talking about, as far as that possibly goes, a miscommunication. If something else didn't happen. And I will discuss that. But I think we want to not go down where we start having our like this one, Joe says, I took my babies camping and backpacking, and they are adults who love to camp. Yes, I think the problem is we often put our own lifestyle into things and also look at certain moments in time and say, oh, how could they do that? I went camping with my children. We went to Assateague Island. Assateague Island is in Virginia. It has wild horses. My kids went, and we went every year with the same couple. The same couple was 20 years young. No, let me think. They weren't 20 years younger than us. Let me get this straight. They were probably 10 years younger than us. But it's a long story how we ended up meeting. But my husband and I was a homeschooling mom. We went to church at the time. We did not do any drugs. We did not drink. All of our friends thought of us as very responsible people. They sent their children with us to Assateague Island because they were comfortable that when we set up our camp, we were going to watch the children. The two friends who went with us year after year after year, the man who was our friend till he died just a couple of years ago, was a little unique, let's say, unique in his thinking. He was a little off and weird and unusual, but fun. And his wife was a darling. She was a darling. And he also brought along his mentally challenged brother, who I believe had Down syndrome. He always took care of his brother. So these three came with us, and they smoked a lot of weed. Let me tell you, we did not smoke weed. They smoked weed. We told them, if you come with us and we do this together, you cannot smoke weed around the children. We do not want them to see this. And they're like, cool, not a problem. And we never saw them smoke weed around the children. But did they smoke weed? They did. And did they drink? They did. And people might say, what kind of rotten parents were you that you took your children? My children liked them. We had a fun time together. It was fine, but if something had happened, people would have attacked us because we brought along a couple that wasn't as, conservative as us. So I think we got to get away from a lot of my lifestyle doesn't agree with your lifestyle kind of stuff. And that this is an interesting point too. Isaac, who's the friend, is odd, but I think he's on the spectrum. Yeah, he is odd. Some people say he's low IQ. Some people say this and some people say that. Hey, I've met guys like Isaac. He's just not as, he speaks slowly. He thinks things through. He's a little, it is unusual, but just because you're unusual doesn't make anything bad about you. There you are. Anyway, so he was there. Anyway, let's get to the next issue. All right. The next issue is, okay, so the kid goes missing. They do all these searches and they don't find him. So in come the private investigators. And here's where really, let me tell you what the theories, I'll get to the theories in a moment of what could have happened to him. I'm going to put that at the end when I analyze the entire case. So let's first go to the other people's theories. Okay. So, here's another thing I want to point out, and I forgot to do it. Okay. He was wearing, last seen, the family said he was wearing a camouflage jacket, some blue pajama pants, and a cowboy boots. And, to tell you the honest truth, if my kid disappeared, I wouldn't even know what the hell they were wearing. I mean, here's a guy, I really don't know that I would know what they were wearing. When my kids were growing up, I was a stay-at-home mom, homeschooler. All our stuff came from the thrift store, So we went, we got our 10-cent, 25-cent shirts and stuff, and my kids suffered. I'm sorry, children. Luckily, most of their friends were homeschoolers, but, they weren't the best dressed kids in the neighborhood. And so, I would throw crap on them. You're at the campsite and you put stuff on them. Look at the camp, you just put stuff on them. I'm surprised he even knew what the kid was wearing. But apparently they said he liked the camouflage jacket and he liked these boots. And a big deal is made about the boots as well, because they said the boots were too big for his feet and therefore he could hardly walk in them. But apparently he did walk in them. I don't know if he had socks on or he didn't have socks on, or he had thin socks or thick socks. Who the heck knows? And no boots, no clothes are ever found in the searches. So there's a lot of theories that if he walked away or an animal got him, that the boots would be found someplace because they would have fallen off. We don't know that. Again, this is a negative and we're going to speculate on negatives. We don't know that. And then there's people who say, well, why was he even wearing a camouflage jacket? That must be a lie because it was summer. It was July. Okay, so I just put this in. I just put this into my my iPhone, right? This is the location they were in. Now check this out. Okay, right now you can see, let's see, Sunday, we're on Sunday, 77 degrees during the day, but 37 degrees at night. Okay. It can get up, and look at most of these for the week. Look at most of these for August, mostly in the 70s. They're up in the mountains. They're up in the mountains, in the trees. And this isn't even in the city. They're up in the trees. I don't know how warm it was there, how cold it was, but that he might have been wearing a jacket during the day, not a big deal, guys. Again, the problem with a lot of speculation on social media is getting obsessed with things that don't matter. This did not matter. I will explain something later about how silly some of this stuff is and how it causes trouble. So anyway, so now let me bring in these characters. All right. So we have the PIs. PIs came in to work on this case, and here are the two dudes. All right. So these are them. This is the first guy on the case, and let me get their names straight. This is PI Frank Vilt. The second PI is Philip Klein. Frank Vilt supposedly didn't charge him any money. They didn't have much money to pay him, and he worked with them for a while. And then he said, "Oh, you're not telling me the truth," and therefore, he said they didn't want to go public. They didn't want to go on Nancy Grace. They didn't want to go on the Today Show. So they didn't want to go national. They didn't want to accept $20,000 to put up, a reward to find him. So he thinks they're liars. He thinks they know what happened to little DeOrr. So he quits. Now, let's unpack this a little bit. Anybody who watches Nancy Grace, and considering I did Nancy Grace for 15 years, I was on the show like 3 times a week. Sometimes Nancy gets right into it and starts saying, hey, did you have anything to do with it? They had already been through a lot of, the parents did it thing already. And maybe they just weren't up for more harassment. I'm not going to say whether they should or shouldn't have gone on the show. A lot of people say, well, then that would have helped him be found. I don't know that it would have. Personally, I'm not as fond of these shows as many people think. I think a lot of times they're nonsense and they don't find anybody. They're just there for their own money-making use. So I don't necessarily agree with that. The police had done the searches. They had put his face out there. If somebody had actually kidnapped him, there was already a lot of information out. So was it really going to make a difference if he did national shows or not? I don't know that it's true that it would have made a difference. So that they decided they didn't want to do them. He didn't ever explain why they said that. He just says, oh, they wouldn't do it. They wouldn't take my money for the reward. Therefore, when you're going to accuse somebody of something, at least explain why, not just that they wouldn't do something. Why wouldn't they do it? I mean, because I have my reasons for not doing stuff. And just because I don't do it doesn't mean I'm a bad person or I'm a guilty person. It may be because I just didn't want to do that for another reason. He doesn't explain anything. But here is what really threw me about him. And by the way, a lot of people think a private investigator working on a case is always an honorable person. They always do a great job. They're always there for the right reasons. And the answer to that is not necessarily so. First of all, sometimes they do make good money. Sometimes they get donations. Like this guy goes for donations to do casework. So he's getting paid reasonably good money and gets to travel around. A lot of times it's for publicity. Lots of reasons. Then you get on TV and you can get more publicity. You get more work. So not everybody is willing to, the PIs are doing it out of the kindness of the heart and they want to find the poor missing child and help the parents. Not necessarily so. So anyway, this is what Frank Vilt said. And this really threw me. Okay, let me see if I can find Frank Vilt's claim. Okay, I got to find which one is his. Okay, I think it's this. Oh yeah, there we go. Okay, Frank Vilt. We have Jessica giving up custody of her other 2 kids from her former marriage. I believe the mother made an arrangement to give up her child for adoption. Say what? Say what? I'm like, okay. So you actually think that the mother behind the daddy's back contacted somebody to get rid of the kid, and then they planned this from the beginning, but then they took along the grandfather and his friend so that they could observe that the kid went missing, and they're going to have to fake this whole missing thing. So they're going to drive into town because that's the only time they could have made the arrangement. They would drive into town with the kid, dump the kid, and then they would drive back and hope that nobody noticed he never returned from town, and then somehow dupe everybody into seeing him and then coming up with a he went missing story while they were all like fishing. This is, and of course, Jessica has to get Vernal on board with this because it's his kid too. So they have to find somebody and then take along these extra people and get rid of him in town. And then, on top of that, then they want a big police search and rescue so that his face is everywhere. So the guy that took them, the child, will be caught and then they'll be caught. What? What the hell are you even talking about? This is the stupidest theory I've ever heard. And, I want to remind you of another person who did supposedly give her child away. I forgot her name, so I'm looking for it. Wait a minute. Okay, here we go. And it would be, where'd he go? Okay, hold on one sec. Oh, for God's sakes. Oh, yeah. Do you remember baby Gabriel? And a woman named Elizabeth Johnson. Elizabeth Johnson and her husband, or whatever he was, they had split up, and she was on the run with the kid, essentially. And then the kid went missing. And it was pretty clear she killed the child, but she claimed she gave the child away to somebody somewhere in a park. and she ended up in jail for a while, but she got freed, and they were never able to prove that she killed Gabriel. But everybody knew she didn't give the kid away. So you usually use the story of I gave the kid away to cover up a murder, not the other way around. I'm going to try to give the kid away, and then I'm going to pretend he got abducted. What the heck? I'm sorry. That is the stupidest theory I've ever heard. And unless you got something to back that up, Mr. Vilt, I'm going to say you suck as a PI. Sorry, but that is absolutely ridiculous. Okay, so let's move away from him. So then we got this guy, Philip Klein. Philip Klein comes in. He gets a lot of money from people. He does a lot of advertising. If you look up his name and you look up fraud and a few other things, you will get some not so great commentary on this man. He's very aggressive. He claims that he came in, he wasn't charging them. He came in and he did tons of interviews, and supposedly he had some kind of connection with the FBI and the sheriffs, and they failed like 9 polygraphs, and they did 9 like interviews, hours long, and he finally decided they were all liars, and therefore the kid was dead. And on top of that, he claims that once the parents got they got evicted and they left stuff behind, and the stuff behind included supposedly a camouflage jacket that he was wearing when he went missing. What does that even make any sense? So if he went missing, if they killed him with the camouflage jacket, would they take the camouflage jacket off and put it at home? Would they leave the camouflage jacket at home and then say he was wearing something different? Would they say he was wearing it when he was wearing something different, and then they wouldn't get rid of the camouflage jacket they left at home? They just leave it there? I mean, could it just be another camouflage jacket because kids grow? I mean, he doesn't support anything he says. And then he claims that Jessica said that she knows where his body is, but there's no proof of that she ever said that. He claims a lot of stuff, and they fired him, and they eventually sued him for defamation and breaching contract. And they didn't win, but I'm sorry, but this guy is sketchy as heck to me. I'm sorry. There's something about him and his methodologies I just do not like. And so I have a real problem with that. So anyway, we've got these 2 PIs, which I'm not impressed with their work. Now let's go to the sheriffs involved in this case. The sheriffs were these dudes. Oh, let me find them. Our sheriffs. There are 2 sheriffs, the original sheriff and then the sheriff who took over. Let me find this. Hold on a second. Where's my sheriffs? Oh, sheriffs. Oh, here they are. Okay. So we got these 2 sheriffs. Okay. This is the original sheriff on the case. Let me get his name. His name is Sheriff. His name is Sheriff. I got so many notes here, and it was taking me a while to find the sheriff's names. Yeah, maybe I'll go back up here. Okay. Lemhi County Sheriff Lynn Bowerman. This is this guy. He's the original one on the case. The sheriff that took over is Sheriff Steve Penner. He was also around when this all happened. So when this guy, I think he beat him out in an election. So then he became the sheriff later. So anyway, Lynn Bowerman originally said that the parents were super cooperative. They did all the interviews. They didn't lawyer up. They did the polygraphs. So everyone was super cooperative, and he did not have a problem with the parents. Later on, he said they were suspects. And let's see if I can find the thing where like years later, he went there and said they were now suspects. And he used the word suspects, which is interesting. Here it is. Oh, no, that's Frank. Sorry, wrong one. Here we go. Here's Lynn Bowerman. They could not pass a section on, do you know, this is talking about the polygraph. Do you know where DeOrr Kunz is at this time? Do you know what happened to him? They could not pass these 2 parts of the polygraph. Now, let me tell you about polygraphs. The problem with polygraphs, which is, I don't know who gave the polygraphs, what they were asking in the polygraphs, what the questions were that might be confusing. Do you know what happened to him? Well, yeah, he went missing. I think somebody took him. I think he got eaten by a bear. I don't know. I think something happened to him. Okay. The problem is, what is going through your mind when you're answering that question? Do you know what happened to him? He went missing. do you know where he is? Well, I don't know. I guess he's out in the mountains someplace. The problem is polygraphs are polygraphs. They're used as a tool for basically tripping you up and getting more information from you. But at that point, mind you, at that point when he decided they were going to be suspects, here's what had happened. The two PIs had both turned on the parents and saying, "We think they're lying." And they never said they were lying about big things. They seemed to say they were lying about little things, like they didn't, they said they were in a place in town, even though they were and had a receipt. And the person behind the counter didn't remember the kid being with them. So was the kid really with them? Well, maybe he was with them and the person didn't see the kid, or maybe the kid was in the car and they just wanted to say, since the kid was there, they just wanted people to say they saw him because they were getting, frustrated, or people were attacking them and saying the kid was already dead, before they even went into town. So there's, who knows? The parents did change up some of their story. Were they smoking weed at the time the kid went missing? Were they high? I don't know again about this issue. Were they so high that their time frames went off and some of their memories are not as sharp? I don't know. So anyway, he at this point can't figure out what happened to the kid. They've done all the searches. They've never found the kid's body. They've never found the kid's clothes. They have no proof of abduction, which they don't. Yet they got nothing. They got 4 people who said he was there at the campsite and then he wasn't. He's frustrated. He can't figure out what to do about all this problem. And now he's got 2 PIs that say they don't believe him. So I think at that point he said, I think he made the parents suspects, which I think is pretty strong. But I don't know that he had any information to make them suspects, because 6 years has gone by and they've never proven they killed their child. So what he's come up with, I think, is, again, his opinion, like the PIs have an opinion. Now, interesting enough, when this sheriff took over, and is a really wonderful, I hope I have it below, but if I don't, put his name in. Again, his name is Sheriff Steve Penner. He talks very slowly and very carefully. I really like this guy, and here's what he said, and I think this is what should have been said. I think it's very rational, very reasonable. He says this: all these people are uncleared persons of interest. In other words, he doesn't say they did it. He just says, I can't clear them. And that's reasonable. He cannot clear them. They were the last people to see the child. He cannot figure out what happened to the child. So that's very, very reasonable. He's going to keep looking at them, as he should, but he's also going to look at other possibilities as well. Now that we're here, all right, now that we're here, I'm going to talk about my analysis and what are the other possibilities as well. Because I know by now you're like, it's like, oh, okay. Let's start with the fact that they were definitely there in the morning. Let's go with that. Again, exactly. This is, again, very isolated place to take an old man who has health issues. Not true. Again, this is your personal opinion. He wants to go fishing. He's with his family. He wants to go. He's not dying. He just needs a little extra oxygen. And I'm 66 years old. And there are people who tell me I shouldn't go places because something might happen to me. I don't give a shit. I want to live a life. The man, I forgot how old he was. The man wants to live what life he has left. And in his opinion, if he drops dead out there, he probably is okay with that, because what's the other choice? Not having a life? So this is where we get our personal opinions. And by the way, Janae, I'm not sure how to say it. Nothing against your personal opinions. I'm just saying that we don't want to take our personal opinions and put them on somebody else and makes them a criminal. That's just not so. So at any rate, so let's not go there and make up stuff that it just isn't. It isn't. Oh, and I want to point this out. There are inconsistencies. This is true, Alicia, with this case. But when people share falsehoods, it makes it even harder to find the truth. We've got so much of this. And there are inconsistencies. And, when you're completely stressed out and all kinds of stuff, you don't remember tiny little details. I can't remember yesterday. So, I mean, I'd suck as a witness. And if my kid disappeared, I would be so screwed because I wouldn't remember what they were wearing. And they said, what did you feed them for breakfast? I'm like, yeah, I'm just one of those people. I'm not real good on those kind of details for memory. My whole family sucks with memory. So you can't go by that kind of thing. So anyway, let me go on what could have happened to him. And there's a number of different concepts. Now, first of all, about going to the store. Oh, Lord, I want to point this out about the store thing. So they did go to the store, but the question is, so they were there in the morning. There's no question. Nobody has any issue except for social media that they were there in the morning and the child was alive. The next question comes in. So Isaac goes back to bed. Okay, so he goes back to bed. The parents go into town with the child, and there becomes a big thing about why they went into town with the child. Okay, again, I never camped. You say, oh, so what happened? So what happens is they go into town. They're going into the town is down that long road, right? And it takes the road is slow, but it's going to take them about an hour to go in and probably come back out. This little teeny town. This is the town of Ledor, tiny little town. There's no cameras in town, unfortunately, so that sucks. But they go into town now. There's a big, huge issue about the reasons they went into town. So a lot of people think this is when they somehow think they killed the child overnight, maybe. And then they were taking him into town. Along the way, they were going to dump his body. Okay. So they're very suspicious about the reasons. One of the reasons they're so suspicious about is the mom says she needs tampons. And here's what you hear. Oh my God, every woman knows exactly when her period is going to be. She has her calendar. She knows when her period is going to start. She will have her tampons on her. There's no reason why she would be camping without tampons. Oh, well, I'm glad you're so organized. I'm not. I was one of those people who go, damn it, got to go to the store. Shit. Take me to the store quick. I got to go. I totally get it. I'm sorry for organized people in the world. Do you think this is weird? I never kept a calendar. I was always surprised. It's just the way I lived. I'm just not that kind of person. I'm also not a morning person. I'm a night person. So, I don't do well in the morning. I love you morning people. I wish I were one of you. I resent you. I want to get up at 7 every morning and feel good. I don't. Never did. We're different kinds of people. That she wanted to go get tampons because she thought period was starting is not a big, huge, weird thing. Now, Vernal also said, I want to get gas. Now they're saying, oh my God, see, they can't get their story straight. She says they have to go in for tampons. He says he has to go get gas. Why can't it be both? He came up there at night. When they arrived at night, the gas station in town was closed. If he was low on gas, and again, should he have had more gas or should he have stopped earlier? Well, maybe, but not a lot of people do that. Some people just ride on empty, So he's at the site, and here's what he might have thought. Well, I have a fly flying through here again. So if you see the fly, I'm just saying, you ignore it like me. So he's at the site with low gas. Now, maybe he says to himself, well, my wife's got to go into town. I should get gas because the place will be open. And what if we want to leave later at night and the gas station's closed again? Then I'm going to run out of gas on some lonely freaking road. I'll just go when we go. Yeah, that's good. You get tampons, I'll get gas. This is not weird, folks. This is normal way of people live. Maybe not you, normal people. Other people live differently. They think differently than you do. So they're going into town. Nothing wrong. They thought we'd pick up a few grocery items, some candies for the kid. Nothing wrong with any of this. So they would have to think about this. If they had killed the child in the night, and first of all, they'd have to. If anybody get up in the morning, they would be still sitting there having to pretend the child was alive when the child wasn't alive. They have to fake 2 people out, or at least one person, because Isaac's not going to be on their side. This guy doesn't care about them. Maybe he'd lie for the grandpa. I don't know, because he's a friend, but he's not. He's you're gonna pay. It's a weird situation. If you killed your kid in the night, the best thing is to get rid of the kid during the night and wake up in the morning and go, oh my God, the kid's missing. Where is he? And that way, he just went missing in the night. And that would be reasonable. Why couldn't that happen? So why would you make it more difficult to have to drive away, try to to dig some hole in the side of the road, wherever, and you don't, try to find a place to put them, and then come back knowing 2 people are going to be awake and sitting at the campsite. You're going to arrive back with your vehicle, get out, and they're going to go, where's DeOrr? Oh yeah, he's still sleeping in the. You got to make up stories. It's a lot of work, and yet, could they have said he's sleeping in the vehicle? Let's go fishing. They could have said that, but the problem is Isaac doesn't say they said that, and the grandfather doesn't say they said that. So then, could it have been true that these 2 were just unaware the kid was no, not in the vehicle. They lied and said he was sleeping, but their stories don't say that. They say he got out of the car, they hung around, and they all started walking around, and DeOrr was there. So I'm finding it hard to believe that the ride into town was to get rid of DeOrr's body. I don't see evidence of that. Could it have happened? It could have, but I don't see evidence of that. So anyway, so now theoretically they went to town, they come back, and they go off, and then he vanishes. All right. Then the next part is where she makes the phone call. And I'm going to replay the phone call because this is another whole issue. There's the phone call.
What's the address of your emergency? I'm actually camping in Ledor, just outside of Ledor. My 2-year-old son, we can't find him.
Okay. Some people think that this, hold on a second. Let me just pull this up. I want to pull up a picture of the parents here. Now let me pull up this one. This is when he first went missing. Okay, here are the parents. Now, there are people who say that the phone call was suspicious, that she didn't sound upset. She didn't sound like she was freaking out. I'm sorry. I don't know what you're listening to. I can hear her voice like this. I can't find my son. She sounds completely stressed. She sounds like she's out of breath. She sounds like she can hardly get the words out. She sounds upset. I've heard a lot of 911 calls that sounded real to me. Also, doing statement analysis on 911 calls. When a person does a 911 call, when they are when they're being deceptive, when they're not telling the truth, this is what they do. They will start out with the most important thing, then the second most important thing, the third most important thing. And I'm going to do another show about someone people have asked me to do a show about. And one of the most fascinating things is her 911 call. I'm not going to give the name right now, 911 call. And the point being that if you're guilty of something, the first thing you want to do is push the guilt away from yourself. So if she was guilty, and I would have expected something like this. 911, what's your emergency? Where are you located? Well, I was camping with my grandfather and he took his eyes off my kid. That would be the most important thing. And 2, and I wasn't nearby. I had nothing to do with it. And he's missing. That would be suspicious. She didn't say that. They asked her where she was. She immediately told them where she was. And she told them that I can't find him. We can't find him. Immediately, she went to what the problem was. And what the true issue was for her was not coming up with an excuse, not pointing fingers at that point, but we can't find him. That is perfectly non-deceptive. I do not see any deception. I see a woman who truly lost her son and can't find him. Now, a lot of people point out that why did her husband then go up the way? What was his suspicious movement? He got in his truck and drove away to supposedly make another phone call. Why wouldn't he stay with her? Why couldn't he make the phone call from there? That's suspicious. Actually, that isn't suspicious. That actually leans towards saying something actually happened at that moment in time. And here's why. If you're controlling the situation, let's assume that Vernal over here, did something to his kid and Jessica didn't realize it. Vernal is going to want to control the situation. The last thing he would want to control everything. And he didn't. He went one way and she went the other. He's like, okay, you call and I'm going to try calling over here, because the truth is there was a problem with the reception out there. It was very spotty. He wanted to go where he knew you could get reception, which was not in the campsite. So he, just by driving 1.5 miles up the road, he got reception and he called. And he called exactly when she was calling. So they said, your husband's on the other line. He was her fiance, but he's on the other line. So he didn't have time to dump a body. So that wasn't happening. So he actually was going to try to get hold of somebody because he wanted the search and rescue team there as quickly as they could come. And if his wife couldn't get his fiance couldn't get hold of them in the spotty area, at least he'd be able to get hold of them 1.5 miles away. 2 people, both trying. I can't see that indicates deception in any way. What it does is actually support the fact that something had just happened. They were panicked. They couldn't find him. And they tried to get search and rescue there as soon as they figured it out. Now, some people will say, well, they should have called sooner. how soon do you call when your kid goes missing? Because this is a real issue. Your kid could just be hiding behind a tree. That has happened to people. The kid's just sitting on the ground picking flowers. They call the whole search and rescue team in, and as soon as the search and rescue team comes up, the kid toddles out with a flower going, "Hi, Mammy." You got, oops, sorry about that. So, I mean, when your kid goes missing, it takes at least a little bit of searching, theoretically, before you call everybody in, because you think he's there. You think you can find him just behind a tree, just down there. You want to, first of all, too, you want to check the creek really quick because you want to make sure he's not drowned in the creek. You're going to find him. That's the first thing you want to do. And you're thinking he's not that far. So you're going to search the area. They did that. That's not anything unusual. When they didn't see him in the general area, they freaked. And then they called 911. Don't see anything suspicious in that at all. So if that's something you're looking at as suspicion, I don't see it. Now, down in the description, there are two different views. There are a few different views on that. One is a body and statement analysis, guys. And I really like what they have to say. And they analyzed a lot of, the family, also they did the two of them 3 days later did a really thorough interview with local media 3 days later. And Peter Hyatt, I also have his link down there, did some, he thought he saw some deception on the father's part. He wasn't sure the deception was concerning the fact that he felt guilty over taking his eyes off the kid, that he thought the kid was with the grandfather, and he thought he was responsible for what happened to his son. That something could have happened to him and drowned. He got taken by an animal. Somebody kidnapped him. He thought he was responsible. She looks a little bit tense in those interviews 3 days later. And it may be that she's mad at him because she does think he's responsible. And she's also mad at her grandfather, but she does, it's her grandfather and it's not his grandfather. So, there's a lot of emotions going on where you're thinking maybe, you want to blame somebody else besides yourself. And then if you are the one you think you should blame, you feel guilt. So there's a lot of that going on. The same interview was analyzed by some statement guys below. And I thought they did a great job. And I agree with them. I didn't see a lot of deception. Peter Hyatt saw a little more deception, but he's careful about whether those were meaningful as far as murder went or accident, or whether it's just guilt over losing, losing your kid because he disappeared on you. So those are different people's opinions, and you can go look at them. But I did not, and it was weird because, if you know me from a lot of other cases, Summer Wells case, I have questions about the mom and the grandmother, that they were involved. You know me from the Madeleine McCann case. I strongly believe the evidence points to the parents being involved in what happened to Madeleine, and the evidence supporting that, and a cover-up ensuing after that. That I'm not shy from saying parents could be involved. So far, when I watched all their interviews, I did not see it with these two. I did not hear it in the 911 call. I did not hear it in their interviews. Do they sometimes have issues? Yes, they do. They're people. She's got some issues with her life. He's got some issues with his. People say, well, she got remarried. They broke up. Well, a lot of people break up after something like this goes on. And she married somebody after like 6 weeks. Maybe she just was just needed something. I don't know. And then she got mad at him later and said, well, he just went on with his life. Maybe he did something to, she's like, people say stupid stuff, but I don't see so far that I can prove that they had anything to do with what happened to their child outside of taking their eyes off of them and thinking Gramps had the kid. I just don't see it. Now, does that mean they couldn't have done something? No, I'm not saying that. But I don't know when they got rid of a body. I can't figure that out because I honestly think that the time frame when they called 911 is when it happened. Too many people saw him. I believe they came back with the child. I believe he disappeared. I don't know where they would have time to get rid of the kid. I just don't know. I also don't see a good time for abduction either, which is why this is such a suspicious case. Now, some people are going to say, well, maybe it could have been, and they've looked at this issue, a predator, the famous mountain lion who drags away people and kills them, the famous bear. I think the eagle is kind of ridiculous. And what's that, a wolf? Maybe. I mean, now, before you say it can't happen, I want to just point out this, which is really interesting. as far as animals go. When we look at, I think I may not have the actual. Well, I'm just going to put this up just because it's fun. Okay, so let's look at the bear issue. Could the bear have taken a child? Now, has it ever happened? And I want to point out that a lot of people say, well, there's very few bear attacks in the United States, and very few times when a bear has ever taken somebody. Well, how do you know that? Because if somebody goes missing and the bear took them, and you never found where the person was, you can't prove the bear did or did not take them. It's one of those negatives. There may be more bears taking away people than we have a clue of, especially a 27-pound little boy. Where's this one that's happened as far as a bear goes? Oh, yeah. In 2007, I read this story. A bear, get this one, a bear ripped open a tent and carried off an 11-year-old boy. An 11-year-old boy, not a 27-pound 2-year-old, carried away an 11-year-old boy. His remains, get this one, were found 400 yards away. Now, they did find his remains. This was in Utah. But that's a long way to carry an 11-year-old boy. This boy's 27 pounds. People say maybe, well, his boots would have dropped off. You don't know that. Depending on how he was carried or how much the bear had in his mouth, who knows? He could have picked up the kid and just taken him off to a den. Not saying that happened, but I'm just saying it is a possibility. And just because we can't prove or didn't happen doesn't mean we should take it off the plate. Abduction, is another thing that is fairly unlikely, because you would think you would hear somebody come up the long road and come on back, because they were really, they were quite far away in the middle of kind of like a nowhere, But there are campsites nearby, and the next day somebody did, I think, pour cremains into the reservoir. So it wasn't like it was totally isolated. Could somebody have gotten up there? Nobody noticed? Maybe. Is the time frame a little small for all of that happening? Yeah, I'm going to say I find that hard. That is a really small time frame. So I have a problem with that. So there's one other possibility, and this is one that is very realistic, that he did indeed wander off and just got lost and was not found. Now, can this happen for a 2-year-old? And here's a really interesting story, which I read. A Russian toddler survives 3 days lost in the Siberian wilderness. A coatless 3-year-old is thought to have followed a puppy into snowy forest populated by wolves and bears. Can you believe the kid lived for 3 days in the Siberian wilderness, and they found him alive, and he was cuddled up underneath like a tree someplace. This is the place that they were in. Was also, if you look back at where they're actually in, they are in this kind of rural area. If he got away, wandered away, maybe the time frame was longer than people think it was. Because as I said, I don't know how accurate the time frame was. Maybe people weren't paying attention for 30 minutes, and in 30 minutes, the kid just went into the trees, got lost, kept going. Who knows? Maybe he went under something and they just could not find the kid. He's very small. And you talk about finding bodies. Does anybody remember the Chandra Levy case in Washington, D.C.? She went missing in Rock Creek Park. They searched that park thoroughly and never found her. And guess where they found her later? In Rock Creek Park. So, it's hard sometimes to find a body in a narrow area. Can you imagine in an area like this? So could his body still be out there and he simply did just walk away and they just haven't found him? The answer is yes. And one of the other interesting things about this is, let's assume that Dad did something to him, Vernal, and rushed off to make a shallow grave or whatever someplace. Vernal has been very outspoken about liking the search and rescue. He was even outspoken about it becoming a bigger, wider area of search and rescue. If you killed off your kid, you kind of don't want them looking for the body, because you're thinking, oh my God, I was hoping they'd stay over here, but I took the car up here and I buried him right here. I hope they don't extend the area any. He seemed to be super in favor of extending the search area, which makes me wonder. It's like, really, could you have buried him so nearby and then you want the search area to be bigger? It's hard to fathom. So, and then the concept of the parents working together to to do something, have done something to him, to want to get rid of him, makes no sense. If anything happened that the parents were involved in, I would say I can't see a homicide here at all. I just don't see that. It makes no sense. I mean, if you're going to knock off your kid on purpose, you're certainly not going to do it when you have witnesses. You can find a way to do that, when nobody's around. And you can take a long drive and then kill him off and bury him and then say you lost him someplace else without your dad and grandfather and his friend who doesn't even give a crap about you being with you. So that doesn't make sense. An accident is possible. Now then the question would be, if it was an accident, let's say he drowned in the stream. Kids drown all the time. Is that really a reason to want to then hide his body and get you have to get your grandfather and their friend to try to say what you want them to say, and then you're going to have to get in a huge police case and search and rescue. Do you really want this just for your kid drowning accidentally, when you can just say there's 4 people there? Anybody could say, he went out of our sight, he drowned accidentally. He could have fallen and hurt himself, and that wouldn't have been a big deal. I mean, people will say, well, maybe ate some drugs or something, and maybe he could have, and that's why they got rid of the body. But then where did it go? How did they do this in this short period of time with 2 witnesses? So it still would be an accident if anything happened. Now, they did offer Jessica a plea deal. Basically, if it's an accident, just tell us where his body is. And she could easily say Vernal did it. They were, by the time they gave her that deal, they were broken up. So why wouldn't she just point the finger and say Vernal did it? His body's over there. It was Vernal's fault. But she didn't. Why not? She even said some nasty things about Vernal later, because he could have done something to him. But she didn't actually take a deal. Why not? I mean, she could just put this to rest, and she didn't. So I wonder, why would that be? So, it's a very confounding case. Kept me up all night long. But what I want people to understand the most is that we're bringing a lot of our own personal ways of living into criticizing. And I think that's wrong. And I think we need to stop doing that. We don't all live the same. And secondly, there was no evidence of him ever going missing prior to the trip. So he went missing on the trip. That's a given. I think we need to stay with that. Third, I think that there is nothing suspicious about the phone, the 911 calls, and I haven't caught them in a lot of deception. Maybe they changed some things later, trying to protect themselves or trying to get people to believe them and making up. I don't know what they did, but I didn't see it in the videos I saw. I don't know what happened up there. I don't know whether Bear did take him away, and it's just one of those freak things. I don't know if he walked away maybe the time frame was a little longer than they want to admit. Nobody was paying attention. Maybe they were smoking some weed and their time frame is messed up. I don't know. Maybe the kid just got further away and then he got so lost he just kept going. And kids can go a long darn way, those little 2-year-olds. They can really move. And it doesn't necessarily mean he's going to fall out of his boots. And then, maybe they just haven't found his body. Third possibility is maybe there were somebody could have abducted him. Not likely, but could have happened. And maybe there was an accident nobody wants to admit to, but I just can't figure out where they would have put his body in such a short period of time. So that would confound me that would be the reason. So that's where I stand today. I do not see evidence the parents are guilty of anything. I stand very strongly with exactly what our I think a very excellent present sheriff says, which is they're uncleared persons of interest. They should be, because they cannot be cleared because we don't know what happened to the child. And there were 4 people there when the child went missing. Therefore, we can't clear them. But we don't have to call them suspects because we don't have the evidence to do that either. So this is a reasonable place to stay at. Will we ever know the truth? I do not know. Now, that's my whole spiel on that. So I'm going to now try to get back to your comments because there's so many of them. And again, if you've made it through this far of the show, please do like and subscribe and join Patreon and support the channel. And now we'll see what other information I can glean off of you guys with all your questions. So, all right. Okay, now here's again the problem. They took two trips miles down the road. That's not a big deal. To a shop that day, one for food, the other for Tampa. It's not a big deal. Again, they went to the town to get stuff. They said the child was in the shop. People in the shop say they did not have a child with him. Yes, that is what supposedly we hear. Now, I have not looked at the police reports. I did not interview the people in the shop. I'll tell you, sometimes people don't remember things really well. It depends when they were interviewed. It depends how many people came and went. It depends whether they think she was somebody else at the time. People are crappy witnesses. I'm just going to say that. They're crappy witnesses. The kid could have been in the shop and they were looking at the mom and then they looked up and they never saw the kid. It's possible that the parents, maybe the kid stayed in the car because didn't want to bring them in because there was so much work. And they later on, they said, yeah, we took him in the shop because they just want people to know. They said, we can't prove he was in the shop because he was in the car. But if we say he was in the shop, somebody will say, he was in the shop and they can stop hounding us. So maybe maybe they were exaggerating. I don't know. But that still doesn't mean that the kid was not alive at the time. So, let me look at stuff that makes sense in here. So I got to laugh at Lisa. At least she said we can't find him and not they've taken him. Yeah, I know if nobody out, if people here don't know the UK case of Madeleine McCann who went missing in Portugal, the parents of Madeleine McCann yelled out they've taken him, which was interesting. Yeah. Oh, thank you, Lindsay. I don't see an issue with leaving a 2-year-old with grandpa. I don't either. I think this is such a blown out of proportion thing. I mean, they might have left him in the room or outside in the backyard, or I don't know, many times, and nothing ever happened to him. Just, it's just, it was if he went missing on grandpa's watch, it was a freak thing, and maybe grandpa is at fault. There's a rumor that grandpa on his deathbed said he was sorry. He took his eyes off of him. I have no idea if that's true, but grandpa does seem to point out when I showed you that previous picture that he was saying, that maybe they asked me to watch him, and I don't know, but then they left. So I think it was a miscommunication at that point. And that is, as far as evidence goes, that's some of the best evidence we have that the kid was alive. Grandpa was supposed to be watching him. Now, everybody could be lying. Everybody could be lying. And Isaac could be lying too, for maybe because his friend said, hey, don't let my kid go to jail. My granddaughter go to jail. Maybe grandpa's a big fat liar too, but everybody would be lying. Every single person has to be involved. And I don't know that they've proven that. So, that's, there's Laughing Hawk has a good one here. People forget there was a time when adults let their small children run around till dinner time in the neighborhood with no adult supervision. That is absolutely true. Children used to be, now what's the term they use now? Free range children, like chickens. I was a kind of paranoid parent when my kids were growing up, and I did not let my kids run around. But yes, when I was little, I know that I lived in Ridgewood, New Jersey when I was growing up, and I left there at 8. And I do know that I used to run around the neighborhood, go down to Grandma Geiger's house. She wasn't my grandmother, but she was an old lady down the street. I used to cross the street to go to my friend Laura's house. I used to run around in that neighborhood, and it was basically come back by the time the lights go down when dinner is, because parents had no idea where the kids were for hours. So, right. I left my toddler with grandpa for 2 days. It's not a big, huge, fat deal. Father, she's saying here, Jean's saying, I left my kids and their in-laws when they're 80. I do it again. Father-in-law was strong and of sound mind. I don't know that this grandfather wasn't of sound mind just because he was sick. And just because he's got his little ways that people seem to think that, he said this and he said that and he acted this way. He's not your grandfather. I mean, maybe they were comfortable with their grandfather. So, it's not a big deal. Okay. This is a theory. I think they backed over with the truck by accident. It was fatal. That is a theory. So, but here comes the problem. When did they get rid of the body then? Now, I know where this story comes from. It comes from Philip Klein, the investigator, who claims he found blood on the back of their bumper. Now, mind you, it's been years. If that were the kid's blood, you'd think that would be proven, and it isn't proven. So I don't know that I believe anything Klein says. So let's say they hit the kid and ran over him. People do that all the time, and they don't then try to hide the body and call in a search and rescue on it, especially because there'd be blood in there, all kinds of stuff going on, and they got to figure out where to hide the body. And when did this happen? And how did they hide the body? And why? Could it have happened? Yes. I just don't see any evidence that it did, and I don't see any. I don't know how they hid the child. So, yeah. I just don't know that there's any proof to that. Now, that's not so much true. Bruce 3 times too big for his feet. The kid. Oh my God! Does everybody here always get? my kids had sometimes boots too big for their feet. I'm sorry. We went to the thrift store. Oh, these are cute. The kid's like, okay, that'll work well enough. I see my granddaughter in some boots that are probably too big for her feet. Somebody handed them over and she thought they were cute. They were glittery or something. And she runs around in them. It's not a big deal. 3 times too big. Who said that? I mean, is it really true? It is not irresponsible to leave a toddler with an old man. It's not. I mean, how old was, we make a big deal about this person being old, but I mean, I'm 66. I watch my granddaughter. If something happened to my granddaughter, is everybody going to say, oh, she probably had some early Alzheimer's? I know her parents did. And they were irresponsible because I think she just didn't pay enough attention to them because she was an old lady. I mean, this is the kind of garbage that we keep saying. It's just not true. It's not irresponsible. It's just normal life. And, they were out there together as a family. It was only for a few minutes. So, they weren't gone for the whole day. They took them with him. Then when they went to the store, theoretically, it's for a few minutes. You don't think your kid is going to go missing from the campsite in a few minutes when grandpa's sitting there looking at him. I mean, it's like, it's just, this is the stuff that I think we have to get away from and go to what is the evidence. Yeah, they did state they were oversized and would fall off, but he liked the noise. They did say they're bigger, but it didn't mean they fell off every 3 seconds. So that's a big difference too. He could walk around in them for hours and they didn't fall off. Then maybe they fell off. I mean, again, it's just too. Let me go to Joe. Wasn't the fishing spot fairly close to the campsite? Fairly close, yes. It wasn't very far away. So again, it's not like they were going up into the mountains and they were going to be gone for hours and then they they couldn't call back to grandpa. No, they were so close by. They could just walk back up within a few minutes and there was grandpa on this campsite. So no, it wasn't far away. As a matter of fact, that's why Vernal, he does claim he saw these like fish or tadpoles and thought, hey, DeOrr would think that's cute. Let me go up and maybe see if he's, go get him, show him this. And I've done that with my kids. I see something cute. I think I would like my kid to see this. And of course, if it was way up in the mountains, you wouldn't say, well, I'm going to hike a mile down the mountains and bring my kid up a mile up here to see some tadpoles. No, I mean, they were like little fishies. They said guppies or something. He just thought that was cool. I'll bring down the kid and the kid can play with the little fishies. So I can go right back and get them. So no, it was leaving the child right there at the campsite with grandpa right nearby. So it's just a little excessive that we're making something of nothing instead of paying attention to what is more like evidence. Oh, thank you very much. He told many lies about the family. He only wanted to grow his business. I'm not going to say he told lies about the family. And we're talking about the second investigator here. But I'm going to say he has a reputation. That's all I can say. Forever Young says polygraphs should be tossed. Ellie shouldn't be disclosing any results. Yeah, polygraphs are a tool. That's it. They're a tool. And they help you, like, when you're doing them, sort of see how people are reacting and what happens. I think disclosing them to the public is again, I think maybe the old sheriff, the Sheriff Barrowman, the one who used to be on the case, maybe is trying to get them to confess. And so he said that. Also, maybe because he's just trying to justify why he calls them suspects. But, they're interesting. I think they can be useful, but I think we don't want to overstate it. Alien abduction. That was part of the 411 program. If you go into the link below and you click the one that's 411, it's actually a very the videography or the filming is fabulous. It's beautifully done. And one of the theories sort of behind the film is maybe it's alien abductions. They don't really say that, but they well, how did some of these children just disappear and never be seen? I'm not going to go with the alien abduction, but I mean, it is, why can't we find the child? I mean, how far could he have gotten? Even with the parents' help, if they had put his body someplace, how far could they have gotten, in the short period of time that they were there? So, that's really questionable. Well, this is said Daniel, for the years I thought the parents were guilty. I think the child fell into the creek and drowned and was washed away. They've never found the body in the creek. And the father, Vernal, does say in one of his discussions that was one of his fears, because he said, although it wasn't that deep, he was still a 2-year-old and could drown in a small amount of water. He was afraid of that. It wasn't a big, huge creek. It wasn't like a river, but they did check supposedly every bit of it. And the body was not found there. So, again, it would have been a reasonable thought that he went away from grandpa and fell into there and drowned. I think if that had happened, if the parents found him, I think they would have called 911 right away and tried to save him. And they had 4 people there to say it was an accident. I don't think they would have buried his body, but he could have, maybe he did fall in, and maybe somehow he did get pushed downstream. Maybe he did get under something and they just haven't found the body. And this does happen. I mean, it happens more than you think it does. That people go missing and you cannot find their body. And one day a dog walker or a jogger a hiker trips over the body and goes, "Oh, here it is." And yet you search that area over and over and over again and you never found the body. So that does happen, which is why I don't discount the possibility that he wandered off by himself and just got so far away by the time search and rescue came. They kept looking in areas that he wasn't, or he was maybe hiding under something at that point, or sleeping, or he was tired and crawled into some place. I can't take that away. Nicole says, I don't keep a calendar either. Yep, also not a morning person. I suffered a lot from that growing up, because I hated going to school because I hated the morning, and it just tortured me. And it took me a long time to realize finally that I could get into fields that didn't require me to get up so early. I ended up doing television. I did get up early to do television. And I also was a medical sign language interpreter. And I would get up at 3 a.m. I get called in 24/7. So I'd be getting up at 1 at 3 o'clock. And I was always okay with the emergency stuff, but somehow getting up every single day, like 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, always made me kind of throw up. So I never wanted a day job, and I never wanted to go to school early in the morning. So that's just me. Oh God. Let's see what else. Okay. And Irish Crime Junkie says, bye-bye. Do the words actually in the phone call sound weird? No. I think that's a good question, Daniel. She says, actually, I think she was trying to figure out what they would actually say. They actually say where they were, because they were actually not at an address. They were actually in a campsite. And I think she's just trying to get across to them and she just blanks for a second. Actually, we're in a campsite. I can't give you an address. So I know, I don't think that's particularly weird at all. I do not think. This is a good point. Kat has divide and conquer. Parents do that all the time. A lot of relationships do not survive the death or child going missing, because everybody's so distraught. Their lives are so screwed up. Their brains are so screwed up. Oh, and I want to mention that, because I will mention it in a second. They fall apart and start hating each other. I mean, they just get angry at each other. They start accusing each other of everything. So that's not unusual. I want to point out something I thought was really interesting in the descriptions. One thing, again, which I had really hard time thinking the parents did something purposely to this child. And this was it. Let me see if I can find this one spot that I had really thought, because I wrote about it, and it just, this. They both seem frantic during the first interview. They don't seem like they have a planned narrative at all. They don't seem like they're just purposely saying, and this is what happened, and this is what happened, and this is what happened. We've already talked about this, and we're going to say this happened, then this happened, then this happened. No, they're like, now he takes over a lot. He's a very outgoing guy, and I'm going to say that's his personality. Not that he was trying to necessarily control her. She's kind of a, more of a, introvert, I believe, and she was more stunned, and so she was taking the back seat in a sense. But here's the thing: they both seem frantic during the first interview, not planned statements. Which, again, if you done something together, you just want to get your story straight. You don't want to add in stuff that is going to mess you up. Their descriptions of their emotions are very realistic and seem like people who have really experienced that. And this is true, because a lot of times if you're not really experiencing those emotions, then you can't describe them. And what they're describing is so real that I'm like, that's pretty good acting. If that's acting, that's damn fine acting, because I don't even know how you come up with that. Because that's one thing you notice about people who are lying about something. They're trying to tell about an experience they don't have. And it's just not true, because they haven't been there to experience it. They don't know. It doesn't come across as real. But if you've been through that same experience, you know what it feels like, and they're saying those things, you're like, wow, that's what I'm feeling. I know that feeling. I know that feeling. And I found their emotions very realistic. So again, I just, Charles is nice. Pat, a few times I wanted to leave the stream. Hard to do, though. You're that good. Well, thank you. I do talk on quite a long time. And it's because I'm going to do just one show on this. And I want to get across the information. And, if you leave the stream, you can always come back another time and finish it. Yeah. The dingo ate your baby is a true story. The dingo story. You have to look back at that one. Supposedly, everybody knows the dingo story. The woman claimed a dingo ate her baby, and then she was felt guilty for years. And I believe they found the dingo really did eat her baby, theoretically. I can't quite remember the whole thing now. This is a good point. Kate McCann, they were talking about the McCann case in Portugal again. Kate McCann didn't search for Maddie. And also Chris Watts didn't search for his missing wife because they knew they were already dead. Yeah, and this couple searched as far as I know. So, Kat's talking about eagles. Eagles take a small animal. A friend of mine had an incident with her baby and an eagle. Yeah, I mean, it is possible there. I mean, those are some really huge things. And I actually heard a story once. I was out at a bed and breakfast out in Arizona, and the guy told me this terrible story about a hawk. And I think it was a hawk. I don't think it was an eagle, but I think it was a hawk. But anyway, it's a large bird. And he said that he had moved from Michigan with their tiny little doggie. and they had a swimming pool. So they were outside. And the little doggie was running around the swimming pool. And the bird just came down, picked up the dog. And they were like, look, our dog. And they never got that doggie back. So they went out and bought a big dog. So yes, that can happen. I find it unlikely that would be this case with little DeOrr. But the bear is a possibility, maybe a mountain lion possibility. Not quite sure. If you lose your glasses, you search the whole house up and down. No, Evelina, I actually buy 4 pairs of glasses and I try to leave them in other different spots just so I don't end up without glasses. Because they never can find things. Oh God, such a small house too. It's just sad. Oh my God. Oh, let's see what this is. Lindsay says there was a case where a toddler wandered off and he was found, I think from memory, 12 miles away and he was alive. To this day, they do not know how he got that far. Okay, I do think I know how he got that far. Think about it. You take a little 2-year-old outside and let him run around. And he's here and he runs up here and then he runs back and then he runs this way and then he runs back and then he runs this. Do you know how many miles that is when he's finished? They are energetic little beasts, you know what I mean? And that's why we get tired trying to chase them around because, oh my God, they keep running around and running around. They have energy. So if a child gets lost and he starts going in any direction, he may just, toddle along over time and he will cover those many miles. So that's why I am not opposed to the concept that during that period of time, DeOrr did just wander off somewhere and just kept going. And because he didn't know where he was and he just kept going the wrong direction and they just haven't found him. I mean, I think it's possible. I'm not saying it's true. I'm just saying I'm not going to leave that alone. Whoa, seriously? Here on an island, they found a large eagle nest. It was dismantled. They found 17 dog and cat collars. Oh my God, that's crazy. And we have eagles coming around our farm area here. Yeah, I did have one missing cat since I moved here. So maybe the eagle got him. And let's see what else we have here. Some other great comments. I was driving down the road once and braked for a rabbit that darted in front of my car. An eagle swooped down, grabbed the rabbit and a foot in front of my moving car. They're pretty good. I mean, they are pretty good. So, wow. Is that true? An eagle can pick up a 20-pound dog with no problem. Again, it could be a rare situation. And what would you do if you're a parent and your kid goes missing like that? And, you're thinking, well, we were all here and the kid goes missing. And then years go by and you're just the suspects forever and ever and ever because you simply can't prove what happened to the kid. They can't prove you did it, but you can't prove that you didn't do it. So it's a heck of a situation, absolute heck of a situation. I don't know. Martin says that some parallels to the Natalie Wood case. Nobody saw anything and not enough evidence to pin anything on the people involved. Yeah, I mean, the Natalie Wood case, which I did another video on in case you're here and haven't seen that video yet, you know, there wasn't proof that anybody pushed Natalie over or beat Natalie or did anything to her. And there were enough people on the boat, you would think that there would be, you know, some more information if something had really happened, or did she just fall in and that's the way it is? And, you know, so nobody was ever charged in that case, but there have been forever stories about this person did it, that, you know, that everybody says Robert Wagner did it. And yet there's no proof Robert Wagner killed his wife. There isn't. And, but, you know, people believe what they, you know, when you have a dark hole, you try to fill it. And this is what's happening. So this case has a hole that nobody can figure out where the boy is or how he disappeared. They cannot figure it out. And because they can't, they fill it with every theory possible. And there's no evidence to support that. And I think it's wrong to do that. I think we should just stick with what he said, unclear persons of interest. We don't know what happened to the child. Maybe an animal took the child. Maybe the child wandered off. We just never found him. But we have not been able to prove the parents did anything to that child, especially not in what I consider a pretty small period of time. They have, by the way. Laughing Hawk says, I'm surprised no one has said Bigfoot did it. They have tried that one. And the 411 show hints at aliens, you know. Oh, thank you, Claire. Claire is very wonderful. She's trying to get everybody to support the channel with the Patreon. And tell you the truth, it would be very helpful. Doing this channel has been really wonderful. You people have been great. But it does take a lot of work. And I say, I didn't even go to bed last night. I think I fell asleep like 7 o'clock in the morning. Actually, I went to bed, but my brain just kept going. So I just kept spending all night going on. I kept playing through different scenarios and trying to look where the evidence led. And I, you know, so I'll sleep well tonight. Let's see what anybody else says. The child had items that they left stuff, Daniel. There's stuff at the house. There's junk. It's called junk. You know, I don't know if you have children, but there's junk. There's tons of stuff. When you get a kid that age, you know, some things when they left the house. First of all, when they left the house, the child was missing for a long time. I think at that point they either thought he was I think the parents think he's dead. I don't think they think he was abducted. That's why I think they didn't push that so heavily, because they can't figure out how it happened either. If he was abducted, they're hoping if they're not guilty, I think they're hoping that the child was abducted, because otherwise he would be dead. But you know, kids have a lot of crap, you know, and people get a lot of crap for their kids. The hand-me-downs, yard sales, tons of junk. You don't necessarily take every piece of crap your kid ever had, and you can leave crap behind, because at that point it is, you know, it's like, so if you're a parent who's ever had kids, you know, you're like, if the kid, and especially he's a young child too, he's not going to remember most of the crap he even had. So if you're going to take anything with you, you're going to take his favorite things, and that's what you're going to do and move on. And you might leave the clothes behind because you just don't want to bother with it. It's not a big deal. And so the nothing there proves anything. And it annoys me that Philip Klein is pretending that it means something. It doesn't mean anything. None of it meant anything. The child went with them to the campsite. No one is denying that, including Philip Klein. He says everything's fine until 8 o'clock in the morning there. If that's true, then what does it matter what's back at the house? It's not like they hid the clothes of the kid in the car and drove the truck and drove it back to the house and then left the stuff there. Nonsense. It's garbage. And I don't even know why he's going there. And I think it is unnecessary. Oh yeah, they found the bones in a dingo den. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so yeah, a dingo den that, you know, so the parents would suffer for years with being accused of something they didn't do. And you're saying in the end, I cannot take the parents' stories or behaviors as true. Why not? I mean, my question is, there is nothing that they have said that specifically says that they did something to their child. I respect that you might not agree, but I do not see that there's anything specific that they've said compared to other parents The Summer Wells case, and if you haven't seen that, go look at my video for Summer Wells. The thing that mother says about what happened, that the child wanted to go into the house, and then she went into the house. She walked the child up to the front door practically, which was right there anyway. So it was unnecessary because the child was not that young and could go across a driveway by herself. And then she said to her boys, watch the kid. And then a few minutes later, she goes in the house and the kid's missing. And oh my God, somebody kidnapped her from the house. That's ridiculous. I mean, the whole story made no sense. They had like 11 dogs up there. No dogs barked. Nobody was up there. It's an isolated house. The mother's story makes no sense. It's questionable. It's something wrong with Summer Wells' mother, Candace's story. I think it's deceptive. I don't see that with these parents. I can't find the deception in the story that makes me say they're trying to cover up what they did to their kid. They're trying to change the time frame. The 911 call is deceptive. It's not. I can't find it. And maybe you see them as people you just think they're just whatever. You don't like their style. You don't like the smile that they had on their face. But I can't find anything that is specific that says they did something. I don't see it. I just don't. I don't see it any place in there. And I'm not saying they couldn't have done something. I just can't figure it out. Yeah, I can't see it in there. So maybe a horned owl, I don't think so. But and this is true, Lisa. Some people are murdered and never found, and some people go missing and are never found. Sometimes we just never get the answers we want, and that is absolutely true. Pat, Forever Young says, Pat, I'll debate you later. Also, something wrong with Jessica's stories. I in the time frame, I can't come up with it. I know she said stuff later on. She flipped out and said all kinds of weird stuff. But again, I don't see where the time frame is that they had a chance to kill somebody, to kill the child, get rid of the body, and then welcome search and rescue to search the area that they would have put the child in. It, as a profiler, does not work for me. I mean, that's as a profiler. Now, as a profiler, I'm not necessarily always right. And again, I never believe that profiling belongs in a court of law. And also, I haven't seen what the police have seen. Now, if the police invited me in and I could look over all this great new sheriff, he said, I like this guy. Sheriff, if he said, hey, Pat, could you come out? I want you to look over all their stuff. I want you to look at their interviews and see if you can figure out how they could have done something to that child. I would accept, and I would do that because it's a very interesting. And I would like to see if there are statements they made, which then I go, whoa, red flag, red flag, red flag. And now I see how it could have happened. All I'm saying is, from what I've seen outside of the police department, I do not see enough deception, and I do not see the time frame, and I do not see a motive. I just can't find it in this case. And I kind of, one thing I want to point out here, I also want to talk about confirmation bias. I wrote this here down. Confirmation bias is that you go in thinking the parents are guilty, everything they do seems guilty. I know I try to avoid confirmation bias myself. And I'd heard a lot, I heard enough about this case to think the parents probably did it. I mean, that was, because I never looked at the information on the case, but I've heard here and there and everywhere. Oh yeah, the parents took their kid camping and the kid went missing. So I came in, I wouldn't say I came in with a belief that they did it, but I didn't come in with a belief that they didn't. I just said, okay, I'm going to remain neutral. Don't know, but I didn't come in with a warm and fuzzy feeling toward the parents either. So I'm watching them and I keep going, I'm not seeing deception. Okay. I'm not seeing what I see in the Summer Wells case. I'm not seeing what I see in the Madeline McCann case. I'm not seeing what I've seen in a lot of parents' cases. So either these people are really good at acting, and there's something everybody's involved. Even Isaac is lying like a dog, and he lied. No one saw the kid in that morning or in the afternoon, and the kid they did something to the kid, and then they drove away, like far away, and hid the kid in the greatest of places. I think everybody would have to be in on it. And I just can't come up with it. I haven't seen it, but I'm not saying if I went and worked with the police department and had the actual original interviews and all of that, I might not find something different. That's all I can say. I'll see if there's any other commentary before I end today's. Well, thank you, Simone. So that's good summary, Pat, and I enjoy your thoughts. Thank you very much. And I try to be as clear as I can, and I leave room for disagreement. And anybody in the comment area, I'm willing to have a discussion. The only thing I don't do in the comment area, which will get you banned from my channel, because I do it all the time, is when you write down there, Pat, you're an idiot. Then I go, bye-bye. People coming around calling me an idiot, not acceptable. People not listening to anything I say and just simply refuting things from other sources, I have issues with. And I'll say at that point, hey, I think we're going to can I'm not going to throw you off the channel. I'm just going to say, hey, I'm not going to discuss it, because if I can't have a rational discussion, if you're going to not accept anything I say as having any validity, then it's kind of pointless. Like, I would think, hopefully you come to the channel because as an expert, I offer you something of use, of something you can think has some merit. If you think that I'm a total flaming moron, probably another channel is out there waiting for you. And of course, I don't object you to going to other channels anyway and getting other people's opinions. And this is a confounding case. This is one case where I understand where people are confused, because it's a difficult one. It really is. I mean, I can't say that enough. It's one of those where there are cases where I go away saying, I'm pretty sure 95% I'm over in this corner. And here I'm like, I would say 70%, 30%, just because I haven't found deception and that I would think I would have found in. I'm not saying they didn't say things that weren't necessarily true all the time. People say stuff. People can't remember things as well as you think people can remember things. Sometimes they try to add in stuff just to make themselves look good. People lie for sometimes reasons that aren't about killing their child. So I'm not saying everything they said is 100% accurate or truthful. I'm saying I can't come up with the kind of things I come up with in other cases where I go, yeah, I'm going to say those parents knocked their kid off. I can't come up with that in this case at this point. I say if I had other information, I may think differently, but I can't go with the private investigators. I don't trust either one of them as far as the way they presented themselves and the information. I don't trust them. I'm going to go with this guy because he's been the most rational person so far. I like him. I like him a lot. So I'll go with that sheriff. And I hope maybe he will come to a conclusion on this case, or maybe it'll just be one of those things where one day they'll just find out what happened, and whatever. Pat, you are brilliant, but I still question your opinions. How dare you? It's okay. You can do that. You just have, but when you question my opinion, here's my only point. What I'm trying to do, and the reason I have the whole channel to begin with, is I'm trying to present evidence, not just opinions. I have one. I'm making determinations based on opinions, but I'm trying to show you what supports that opinion or determination. So when I say the 911 call, for example, I do not see deception. The reason I don't see deception is the evidence that she did not present things that deceptive people present, like trying immediately to point the finger someplace else, to make excuses. The most important thing to her was that she couldn't find her child. That is a sign of truthfulness. And comparing it to deceptive people, she comes across as truthful. So that I'm giving you the explanation behind my determination. And that's why I try to present these things this way, not just an opinion out of the blue, like, I'm a profile and I've been around for 30 years. So when I say the person's not guilty, they're not guilty. When I say the person's guilty, they're guilty. That's what Philip Klein is doing. He's saying he's throwing mud, and he's just throwing shade on these people and saying, "Oh, they're a bunch of fat liars." In what way? In what way? And how is this proven? What is behind your determination that they're this way? And I don't see it. I don't see any evidence presented at all. And that he makes claims, but the claims are just not credible, and that concerns me. So what? Oh no, don't dare send Pat down the Maura Murray rabbit holes. Okay, I'm lost. Who's Maura Murray? I'm not sure. Oh. I like you as a person. Aw, that's nice. Don't know if it has anything to do with me being good as a profiler, but thanks. I appreciate that. Again, what about the camo jacket? That was not found. That is not the camo jacket. That's the whole point. What I'm trying to point out. Who said it was the camo jacket? Philip Klein claims he found a camo jacket. It wasn't the jacket he was wearing the day he was a quote. That's not the jacket he was wearing. That's the whole point. It's an assumption, or Klein trying to claim it, and it makes no sense. I keep trying to point out that makes no sense. The child left there alive. Either he was wearing the camo jacket or he wasn't wearing the camo jacket. If he was wearing the camo jacket when he went missing, there's no reason it would show back up at the house. There's no reason whatsoever. It makes no sense. So what they claimed he was in a camo jacket, yet took the camo jacket off and went hid it in their house and then abandoned the house and left it there? That doesn't make sense. Was he never wearing the camo jacket to begin with? They lied about that. Would there be a purpose for them lying about that? Except for maybe four people forgot he was wearing a camo jacket. There may have been just another camo jacket. He likes camo shit. Maybe he just had two camo jackets. I mean, it's not meaningful. And unless he can explain that this is the exact camo jacket that he supposedly was wearing, then he's full of it. He's just full of it, and he's making up stuff. And here's another thing. Oh, speaking of that, there's no pictures. The claim is there's no photos. And she was a big photo taker. So since she didn't take photos, that clearly shows the kid was either not alive or whatever. Okay, they arrived at night. They made their camp and went to bed. They got up in the morning, they did some stuff. They went into town, and then they went down to the waters. Maybe they were busy and didn't take pictures at those moments because there was nothing really cute to take. Maybe there just wasn't something that hit her at that moment to take a picture of. Let's say he hadn't disappeared and he'd gone down to see those cute little guppies and he was playing with the guppies. I bet you she would have taken a picture. So just because a person takes a lot of pictures and then there's a few hours where they don't take a picture, that does not mean anything at all. And that's again the point. We're over exaggerating things. Okay, let me see what this is. Disappearance of Maura Murphy. Oh, is this the oxygen channel again? Oh Lord, I'm gonna take a picture. This is the way I put this on my list. I just take a picture. Okay, of the name Maura Murray. I will check that out. And who knows? And bye, Sarah. Pink lilacs. Aw, thank you. I love your way of thinking. It's been fascinating. I'm glad. That's my whole point is, just to really make it rational, make it sensible, make it understandable. There's no miracle here. There's no psychic crap going on. There's no, I'm so brilliant, that you can't follow me. None of that. It's my thinking comes from logic and experience, and I'm hoping that I can teach that. Not teach that I know this more than you do, but just that maybe you haven't thought of this, and maybe this methodology will help you understand this, and also help you understand how criminal profiling and analysis should work, as opposed to just making stuff up and making claims that you don't have any thing for. So I'm going to look at the Maura Murray case. That's interesting. For every chunk. No, not Maura. Don't go there, Pat. You'll be up for days. Yeah, and we're going to never sleep. It's kind of funny because when I quit doing television work, I lost contact with a lot of what the cases were that were coming up. My parents, by the way, I stopped TV for ethical reasons, but also both my parents at that point had Alzheimer's. And I had to spend a lot of time at that moment in time caring for them, and doing television also just didn't fit in. So between the two things, the ethics and my parents, I stopped doing it. And I did not go back to television work. And in doing so, I wasn't up on all the news stories coming out because I don't watch a lot of news actually. And so now you're telling me about all these things, and I'm sure you think, oh, Pat Brown must know these cases. And actually, I don't. And so now I'm getting, now my parents are gone. They've moved on. And to other worlds. They lived good lives, and I miss them, and they were great. But they are not here anymore. And my granddaughter, who I've been homeschooling for the last year and a half, is going to school in a week. So I will finally have some time back again. And that's why I'm putting my efforts into YouTube. And now with all these cases that you're bringing up, I'm like, well, I get to get back into this kind of analysis and to see what has been out here for all these years. I hadn't looked at the DeOrr Kunz case, and it has been a fascinating case. And so I'm finding more cases well, I've got a really long list now. So hopefully you'll support the channel, because I may be here for a long time. I started to watch and fell back asleep. Uh-oh, I bored you to death. Oh, God. Oh, that's funny. Oh, by the way, I cracked up when Lizzie said you can't teach logic. What? It's called math. Logic, I want to point out logic. It is actually an interesting point. Some people are just not logical. It's true, and they can do many a wonderful job, but detective work probably isn't the best choice. And I have gone and worked with police departments where the detective on the case has done really good work at following what he's supposed to follow. Like he went out, he wrote down everything, he did all the checks he was supposed to check. He was very, very concise. Everything, he did it really well. But when it comes down to analyzing the case and having a theory, right out the window, and you're just like, wow, that's interesting. And some people just aren't logical. They just aren't. This is not their forte, and they're not everybody has that. And they're good at other things. They're just not maybe good at logic. Thank you, Christine. The more cases you analyze, the better. Well, let's say hopefully I'll be around and COVID won't get me. So I'm like, what is? Anna says Mortimer is a social media industry. Well, I have now. Okay, now I got to check it out. You made me have to do this. Darn it. Okay, so I'm gonna close for today because we had a great time. And you all have been wonderful. And I'm looking forward to a little discussion that I'm going to have about what evidence there is that I am not presenting that the parents clearly are guilty. So I will see in the comments below what's up with that. Oh, wait a minute. There's one more here. The White House farm murder is long. Oh, they got a Wikipedia page on that. Let me take a picture. Okay. Okay, I'll check that one out. I got to do some UK cases because I got a lot of UK folks here. And so I think I should do some UK cases as well. So I will do that. But there's a lot of research to be done. It takes a lot of time. And also just I want to point out, when I do a case, there has to be a good reason to do it. And sometimes people will say, can you look at this case? And I've got nothing to say. It's like, there's no information. The kid went missing. It looks like a serial killer. I got nothing. And I can't do a whole show on that. So some cases I cannot do for those reasons because I have nothing to offer. But if I can offer something, then I can do a case. So anyway, so thank you very much for being here. You've all been so great. Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, Claire. You're awesome. And thank you, Forever Young. And thank you, Michelle. Oh, Kate. Oh, go ahead. Oh, always great people. So I really like doing live because everybody gets. All those years of doing TV and staring at a blank camera and not talking to anybody who's watching the show is kind of a bummer. So this is awesome. So anyway, thank you for being here. I will be back next week. And if you want to be involved in the once a week live chat, it's called Hangout with Pat Brown. It's a Q&A. You can send me your questions ahead of time. I answer them during the show. You can ask them during the show. The show will be broadcast later, but if you want to participate, you do have to join Patreon because that's kind of my little group that helps support the show. You will not get a notification from YouTube because you won't get a notification before the show because although it looks live and a lot of people are going, well, I missed the show. No, you didn't. You have to be a Patreon person for that so that you come. I give you the notifications go out to Patreon. Those people at that level of Patreon, they get the notifications. They come to the live, which at the time is unlisted. So only those people know about it. we do the show, we hang out together, and then when it's finished, I air the show, and then the notification goes out that the show has been done so that everybody else can see all the topics we discussed. And anybody who is part of the Patreon level of Friends of Profiling of Pat Brown, if they sent me a question but couldn't make the show, then they get to see their question answered during the show when they watch it. So that's just one great way to support the channel. And it's a lot of fun because some of the questions have been fantastic. And really interesting questions about criminal profiling and analysis, things I haven't even thought about in a long time. And it's really, really great stuff, and making me think, and go back and do, even read my own books and say, what did I ever say about that? So do join Patreon. That'll be fantastic. And I'll be here next week with some show, which I, of course, do not know yet what I'm doing yet. I will figure it out sometime this week. And I think we'll probably do maybe Thursday for the live again at 7:30. I like that time. Maybe Wednesday, but I'll notify those people from Patreon about what time we're going to do the hangout show. So looking forward to seeing you all again. Again, you all just great people, and I have so much fun doing this show. And I will see you next time.